An Illinois family man, a devoted churchgoer, the kind of person you'd never look at twice. But beneath his home, he's building something no one else knows about. A soundproof bunker, surveillance cameras in every corner, handcuffs bolted to the walls, and then he puts it to use. 2 elders from his own church are kidnapped and locked inside his homemade prison. This week on Two Crime Newsies, we dive into the chilling case of Chad Skipper, better known as the Bible study kidnapper. Hey everyone, I'm Jen. Thanks so much for joining us for another week of Two Crime Newsies. I'm sitting here with my ankle poppin' co-host, Tina.
Thanks, Jen. Oh my gosh.
We sat down and Tina is like crack and she's like, Jen, did you hear that? And I was like, yes.
That was my ankle. My bones are old.
You know something? I get it with my hip all the time. I sit down and I lift up my leg and it's like crack, and then you hear this crack and that crack.
It sounds scary.
Yeah. My kids are like, Mom, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, it's old age. You'll get there eventually, kids.
I think I need more calcium.
Well, I am excited to be sitting here with you, my friend. I got here and Tina had coffee and donuts. She is speaking my language.
Coffee and donuts.
Speaking of caffeine, I want to say thank you to all those who have contributed to our coffee fund. If you don't know what we're talking about our buymeacoffee.com/2crimenewsies account. You are helping fuel our podcast.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so back to today's story. I can honestly say I heard about this case first from a true crime site I follow on Instagram called Psychological. And as soon as I saw the write-up on it, I was determined to find a documentary to watch so we could cover this episode.
When you sent me that Instagram post, I was shocked. I couldn't believe I'd never heard about the story. And I'd never heard anyone else talk about it. Above the caption on the Instagram post is a photo of a very ordinary and happy-looking couple.
They look like normal people.
Yeah. But when you read the caption, it says the man was living a double life, and behind his wife's back, he kidnapped an elderly couple from his church and held them captive in a soundproof basement. I was floored.
Disturbing.
This man was living polar opposite lives. In one life, he was a devoted, God-fearing husband. In his other life, pure evil. It's mind-boggling, really.
It really is. Right before we got started, we spoke about how Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, was a devoted churchgoer. And nobody would have ever thought it was him. He was a Park City compliance officer outside of Kansas City. He was apparently, by all accounts, a normal man.
Rule follower.
He was a rule enforcer.
Yes.
And it turns out he went around murdering people for decades before he was finally caught. You never know.
Making all of us rule followers look bad.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so today we're talking about a show I watch on Hulu called Betrayal, Secrets, and Lies. And we're going to be focusing on episode 3 of season 1. And the episode is called The Bible Study Kidnapper. I feel like Tina already looks at people with suspicion in church these days after all of the stories we've done about churchgoers who have turned out to be killers.
Here we go again.
But I have a feeling this is going to make Tina side-eye even more people.
Yes.
Tina, are you ready to do it?
No.
Well, we're going to do it anyway. Here we go.
All right. So the show opens at a wedding. We see a young couple exchanging vows. Their names are Danielle and Chad. And we hear Danielle say Chad was the person she was going to spend the rest of her life with. She says her life with Chad was great. And for a moment, she thought it was too good to be true. Cut to a mugshot now of Chad and a voiceover of a man saying he's facing felony charges. We see a montage of pictures, one of what looks like a hidden door in a floor, And we see handcuffs. And we hear Danielle's voice say they were married for 17 years. They had 6 children. And she says Chad lied to her about everything. Then we see Chad in an interrogation room wearing a jail uniform, and he's telling someone he has a demon inside of him.
I want to start by saying that the show kicks off with podcast host Andrea Gunning of the Betrayal podcast, and she's speaking virtually with Danielle Chauvet. Danielle grew up in the Bay Area of California, and Andrea tells us that Danielle was homeschooled and came from a Christian background. Now, during her late teenage years, the family moved to Illinois, and she started attending Black Hawk College Bible study groups in hopes of making friends.
Danielle's sister Randon says one of those fellowship groups was called InterVarsity. She says Danielle went with her, and that's where she met Chad Skipper. Danielle describes Chad as charismatic and attractive. We hear from a mutual friend of theirs that says Chad was known to be cool, calm, and collected. He was smart, and she says he was kind. Ironically, on their first date, Danielle and Chad watched a movie called So I Married an Axe Murderer. Do you remember that movie?
No, I don't. Is it good?
So I know I watched it because I remember the clips that they showed. I just cannot remember. It can't be a good movie. It can't be. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it was more of one of those cheesy type of movies from way back then in the 90s, where
no
it was
offense to the person who directed and starred in the movie or produced it.
Whatever, don't care. It was a mix of comedy, kind of like Scary Movie, if you think of
like
it.
a slapstick type thing?
Maybe, I think so. Title alone, So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Sounds like bad life choices.
Bingo.
Chad and Danielle started dating, and after a while, the two got married. And from all the home movies we see on the show, they looked like they had it all. They were young, they were in love, and had their whole lives ahead of them. And we see the newlyweds drive off in a large limousine, and that's when we hear Danielle say, "We were so happy. I could never have imagined what was on the horizon." Chad and Danielle Skipper moved to Erie, Illinois, and they seem to have it all.
We see some shots of Erie, and it looks quaint and cute with older buildings that look like they've been well kept and still open for business. Danielle says it is a small town. It's quiet, and you know everyone there. We learned they attended and were very involved in a local church, the same one Chad grew up in.
We hear that the couple was always together and they were very lovey-dovey, and the young couple was well on their way to a bright future. Chad ended up starting his own financial advising business, and they truly seemed to have it all until we hear about something that happened with Chad and another man in a bathroom. And that's when we learn that Chad had been unfaithful.
Danielle says Chad seemed distraught and sincere in wanting to work on their relationship. And while she was confused on why this had happened so early in their marriage, she didn't want to leave him. So the couple decided to go to marriage counseling.
We hear that a few months later, Danielle learned she was pregnant. She then became pregnant with her second and third, then fourth and fifth and sixth kids. This is when we see lots of home videos of the family and pictures, and they look like an ordinary happy family. They were doing so well and were so happy that they eventually ended up leaving their small starter home and upgrading to a big house with quite a bit of land attached to it. Chad's office, we learn, was downstairs, and that's where he worked. Danielle became suspicious at one point, and it sounds like angry at times because Chad would work until all hours of the night in his office and would sometimes even sleep there. I think that's a red flag.
Yeah. You're spending all your time in the basement?
Do.
Not good.
So I married an axe murderer.
Yeah, maybe she should have watched it again. Danielle says when she confronted Chad about wanting him to spend more time with her, especially at night when his work hours should be done, he got mad and said he was going to spend even more time in his office. That makes a lot of sense.
I find that really odd. I really do. And this is when we're introduced to Larry and Connie Van Oosten on the show. I love that last name, Van Oosten.
It is a really cool one.
That's cool. Like, Oosten. No, that's not where your mind goes.
No. Is that a song?
No, but it could be.
Oh my gosh.
Larry and Connie Van Oosten.
Are you just going to sing it now?
That's pretty sweet. Okay.
That's pretty sweet.
I'm going to try to be serious here. Larry and Connie Van Oosten were elders at the church where Danielle and Chad attended. The couple was a prominent family in the Erie community. They appeared to have some businesses in town and had sold one, which meant that they were going to be coming into some money. Which, remember, Chad is a financial advisor. That could mean some extra business for him. But that plan fell through when they decided not to use him. And this is when Chad started looking at other ways to make money.
We learned Chad chose to invest in properties to renovate and then rent. Danielle says Chad did this all on his own, without consulting her. But since they were doing so well and seemed to have everything they needed, she was content and she didn't question it. Except when he started being away from home more. When she asked where he was, Chad would make excuses, claiming he was working on one of the properties.
At this point, the couple have been married for 17 years. And this is the point where podcast host Andrea Gunning says this is when things started to get weird.
Sounds like they'd been weird for a minute.
I was about to say, I feel like things have been a little off for a while.
Yeah. And you're ignoring them, or maybe with 6 kids, you're just so busy you don't have time to notice them. I don't know.
But she was noticing it. Like, she called him out on sleeping in the basement.
True.
Or working. Like, I feel like Danielle was trying.
Sure. So then things didn't start to get weird. They got weirder.
Weirder. That's a good way. Danielle tells us that one night, a car that she and the couple's son didn't recognize pulled into their driveway late at night, and it was being driven by Chad.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm. And this is when we hear something even stranger. Danielle says she later found out that Chad had texted their daughter that night and asked her to wrap a hammer with black electrical tape. What? That's odd. That's very odd. And
I don't even know what I would do if my dad texted me that.
I'd be like, that clearly can't be for me.
That's a good point.
Like,
I would probably show it to Mom and think, Mom, is this meant for you? What is this?
Is this like a strange hobby? Like, what is this? So this is when we see a text pop up on the screen that says, Daddy, meaning he's the one sending the message. And he wrote, I need someone to swirl the tape slowly and precisely around the handle of the maul so that all of the yellow is covered in black. Another message pops up from Daddy, and it says, I want it to be very nice and not a giant wad of tape, but a nice, smooth covering of tape.
Grace says she did what her dad told her. Sent him a photo, and we see his reply on the screen. He says, looks awesome. Great job, sweetie. Special treat for you.
Why would you need your teenage daughter to wrap a sledgehammer in black electrical tape? That is the strangest thing I've heard. And I've heard some strange things. You know, working in TV, we hear some bizarre things, but I think that's strange.
I do too. And he was compelled to text that to his daughter and ask her to do that. Why didn't he just do it himself?
In the world of crime, it's often the smallest details that cost people the most. The things they didn't see coming. And when it comes to your home and auto insurance, overpaying every month without realizing it, that's a costly mistake.
That's where Quentin Brown with Shamrock Insurance comes in. Instead of locking you into one option, Quentin shops over 25 top-rated insurance carriers to find you the best coverage at the best price, so you're not left paying more than you should.
Whether you're a homeowner, driver, business owner, or even a truck driver, Shamrock Insurance has you covered.
No surprises, no wasted money, just smart protection tailored to you. So before your next bill hits like a bad plot twist, make the smart move.
Call Quentin Brown with Shamrock Insurance today at 512-337-2482 and let him shop for you. Because saving money should not be a mystery.
If you missed that number, it's 512-337-2482. We'll include it in the show notes. Don't wait. Give them a call today.
Here, listen to this, Tina. It gets even stranger. We hear a few days later, again in the middle of the night, Danielle says she heard a very loud bang, bang, bang in the house. And that's when she says she heard, police, put up your hands in the air.
Danielle says she didn't have her glasses on, so she couldn't see clearly, but she did see someone pointing a gun at her when she left her room and walked down the hall. Danielle had her hands up in the air and wasn't allowed to move. She couldn't wake the kids up. It was police in her home. They asked her where Chad was, if there was a hiding place in her house, and they asked her if she knew the Van Oostens.
Could you imagine waking up to this in the middle of the night? Like, I know how I am first thing in the morning. Like, if I don't have my coffee in me, my mental state is not all there. Like, I need my caffeine to get rolling. This woman is woken up in the middle of the night, told to put her hands up. There's police swarming her.
Asking where her husband is, if she knows the Van Oostens. Yes, this is all crazy.
I would be absolutely terrified. Not only are you woken up in the middle of the night to this mayhem inside your house, but the police start drilling you with questions about hiding spots and random people you know from church asking about your husband. I would be terrified. And truthfully, as I mentioned, I would be majorly confused. Danielle is brought back to the police station for an interview, and she says they started asking her some strange questions.
Danielle says they asked her what kind of business Chad was in. She tells them the financial business. And what does this have to do with the Van Oostens? But police don't tell her.
Turns out we learned the Van Oostens have been missing for 3 days, and people around the small town of Erie are suspecting they were victims of some kind of crime. This is when we're introduced to Chris Endress of the Illinois State Police. We hear that in the middle of the night, a masked intruder with one of those voice modulators, which is used to disguise someone's voice, broke into the Van Oostens' home, kidnapped them, and drove them to a bank.
We learned that the intruder drove the Van Oostens to their bank and instructed Mrs. Van Oosten to get a check from the bank for $350,000 or he would kill her husband. We see footage from the bank and you can see the car pull up and you can see Mrs. Van Oosten walking into the bank.
We hear that while inside the bank, Connie Van Oosten pulled out a church flyer from her purse and ends up slipping a note to the teller saying she's in trouble. We then see more surveillance video of Connie leaving the bank. She's walking down a walkway in front of the bank and then turns left on a sidewalk. This is when we hear that a bank employee ended up calling police. Police immediately review the surveillance video from the bank and determine that the car being used in the kidnapping was a light-colored early 1990s style Chevy Caprice. They didn't have a license plate, but they did have a clue about who the kidnapper could be, thanks to an LLC, which was put on the cashier's check. We see a picture of that cashier's check, and in the pay to the order of section of the check, it says the Store Edge. And Tina, guess who was the registered owner of the Store Edge LLC? Well, none other than Chad Skipper.
How in the world would he think his LLC, Jen, would be untraceable?
Dummy. I feel like this reminds me of the Transylvania book heist where they used their email addresses and phone numbers. Come on. It's going to be traced back to you. The police officer literally just called his cell phone number and it goes, "Hey, I'm Spence."
What are they thinking?
I mean, come on.
Police also see that Chad owns a 1992 Chevy Caprice and that he owned a number of properties around town. So police start keeping a watch on all the properties.
While processing the crime scene at the Van Oostens' home, sheriff's official in Whiteside County get a break. Dash cam video is rolling when investigators pull over the suspected car that was used to drive Connie to the bank. We see the car pulls along the side of the road, but then the driver floors it, and you can hear an officer on the radio saying that he's taking off and the chase is on, until we see the car swerve off the road and slams into an oncoming car. Chad Skipper was behind the wheel of that fleeing vehicle, and we hear he was taken to the hospital.
Chad had broken ribs and a dislocated elbow. When the police asked him what was going on, why he was running from them, he admitted to kidnapping the Van Oostens for their money.
This takes us to Chad's rental property. We see the exterior of the house, and it looks cute. It truthfully looks like any ordinary small home. It's got a large tree in the front yard and a 2-car garage on the left side of the home. And we hear FBI agents and local law enforcement went to the home and didn't find Larry and Connie Van Oosten. But they did find something strange in the house. In one of the bedrooms, there's a large TV monitor on the floor. And what's on the screen is shocking. Almost like something you'd see out of a horror movie. On this TV screen, investigators can see Larry and Connie Van Oosten inside a concrete room with no stairs. We see an evidence photo here, and in it, you can see there's a handcuff on the wall, there's a TV mounted to the wall, and it looks like it's attached to a camera of some sort. The photo then pans over what looks like a bathtub, and next to it, there's a small sink and a ladder. What we hear next is terrifying. Investigator Chris Endress says that they saw Larry and Connie shackled, standing up against the walls in a soundproof room. But the question is, where exactly are they? Investigators see that there's surveillance video of the couple, but they don't know where that video is coming from. Are they inside this house or somewhere else?
So officers continue searching the home, and when they open the coat closet, they notice that the floor looks different than the hallway floor, and it has hinges.
Suspect.
So they lift the floor up and see a steel door with a lock. Police break the lock, lift the steel door, and see the room below them is the soundproof room they saw on the TV screen. There they find the Van Oostens alive, handcuffed against a wall.
We hear from investigator Davidson here, who tells us that one of them was just hanging by their wrists because they have been standing in that same position for hours. We see lots of evidence photos, and we can see that there are cameras in every single corner of the room and a microphone, so Chad could listen to everything that they talked about. And it gets even worse. We hear that Chad would speak to his prisoners in a creepy voice through a microphone with his voice modulator. Tina, that is some terrifying stuff. Could you imagine how creepy that is?
We hear investigator Endress say after seeing all of that, he didn't think that Chad was ever going to let them go. We see evidence photos, one of plastic sheeting found in Chad's car, along with rolls of duct tape. And we see the interrogation video with Chad, and when asked about that plastic sheeting, because it looked like what someone might wrap a body in, Chad said he was only going to use it to fix a window.
In my opinion, baloney.
Baloney for sure.
I feel like he was going to go Dexter Morgan.
Yeah.
Poor Van Oostens. That's terrifying. At this point, the Van Oostens are alive and safe, and Chad Skipper is in police custody. And this is when police start working on the timeline. And if you know anything about our podcast, you know Tina and I love a timeline.
Sure do.
We see video of Chad Chipper's interrogation, and he's sitting in an orange chair wearing a black and white striped jail outfit. His right arm is wrapped in a giant bandage, remember, because he had been in that car accident after running from police. And we hear that Chad got into the Van Oostens' home using a sledgehammer. Sound familiar?
Yep, the one he asked his daughter to wrap for him. He used the sledgehammer to break open a basement window and got into the Van Oostens' house from there. This happened while the couple was sleeping. He goes into their room, wakes Mr. Van Oosten, uses a taser on him, and then gets Mrs. Van Oosten to handcuff her husband, and he duct tapes their eyes and mouths shut. The show doesn't mention it, but I'm assuming he's wearing some sort of disguise because he chooses to use his voice changer to do something demented next. He tells them, "Where is your God now?" What a sick thing to do.
That's terrifying. Not only are these two people woken up by a crazed madman inside of their home, but then to have duct tape put around your eyes and mouth, and then to have him speak to you about God while he's using a voice modulator, it's scary. Chad Skipper then loads Connie into his car and drives her to the bank, and then we know how the story goes on from there. As you can imagine, the news of Chad's arrest was the talk of the town, and it was the first story on the local news that evening.
Danielle sees the news and immediately thinks they have the wrong guy. She can't believe her husband could be capable of such a crime. She says at that point, her life was turned upside down. Her whole life was a lie. The person she loved wasn't the person she thought he was. Danielle says they were married for 17 years. And remember, they had 6 children. And at this point in the show, she doesn't know if Chad ever really loved her. Jen, and I can't imagine this nightmare for Danielle. The mental challenge of having to realize that the life you thought you had with this person wasn't real. He's a completely different person. He was living a double life. How do you trust anyone again if you went through something like that?
Especially because he had been building that room for a while. I mean, that you don't just, have your basement like that. You
Yeah, that
don't-
was a sophisticated thing that he had going on
with
there.
the cameras, with all that stuff.
The
like,
steel door,
Yeah.
the lock, the
Yeah.
hinges in the floor,
like
the
he had
TV
been planning.
screens.
Which makes me wonder too, like if everything hadn't happened with the Van Oostens, like who would have ended up down there? Like who else had
Yeah,
that been
he's
planned
probably
for?
not building that for just one-time use.
Yeah,
Allegedly.
for funsies. Allegedly. Allegedly. Now, during the police interrogation, Chad Skipper told police that he had some big ideas for the properties he had bought, but they had gone underwater, and he owed more on them than they were even worth. So Chad told them he felt desperate.
So he just goes and spends all of this money
Money?
on building this thing?
This torture chamber.
That
of
sounds
sorts.
like a great idea. I mean, what? I don't understand how people have such bad decision-making skills.
You, in one of your episodes like that we had recorded, you had mentioned that their frontal lobes had not been developed
This
yet.
this guy was old. That's not an excuse. He was married for 17 years. He was not in his 20s.
Oh, he made some bad decisions, that's for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Investigator Chris Endress says that Chad was a failed businessman and he had borrowed a lot of money and had taken out a lot of credit card debt. And turns out he was also embezzling money from his clients, the ones who trusted him with their own money.
I can't with this man. Investigators found credit cards in Chad's office that didn't belong to him. They were in other names, including his own parents. We also learned that Chad forged documents to borrow money against his parents' house. That was paid off. Danielle
Terrible.
says Chad stole money not only from his parents, but also from his grandmother, his uncle, and Danielle's brother, and another church member.
I feel like there was no one safe from all of his criming.
Again, how do you just keep going and think that this is a good idea?
We hear that his own parents ended up suing him for close to $400,000. And on top of all of that, Chad owed his clients roughly $350,000. And that's when the Van Oostens came into all of this. We hear when they decided not to work with him, Chad became desperate. And that's when he started putting together this insane plot to kidnap them.
I still can't wrap my head around this. If it's your job to manage someone's money, but you can't handle it and you're not doing it well, don't take anyone else's money. You're not good at it, obviously.
You need to get a new career path.
Get another job. That's always a better option than constructing a dungeon and kidnapping people for their money. Just get another job. It's so simple. Any job.
Any job.
Who cares if it takes you 10, 20 years to pay them back? Stop taking people's money. Get another job. Pay them back slowly.
Don't build a dungeon.
Don't build a dungeon.
It's crazy. The story is just one thing on top of the other, I feel like.
I don't understand. This man was just a completely different person than all of the people who knew him thought he was. I just, it's kind of like the Long Island serial killer, you know?
Or BTK. Or the Green River Killer. Or we've done so many of these episodes.
So frightening.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to side-eye my husband.
No, you're not.
Just kidding.
You'll be side-eyeing the mailman. You
Yeah.
already side-eye your neighbors.
Oh,
so.
for sure.
I mean, I side-eye your neighbors too. So back to the show. This is when we see an evidence photo on the show that was found in Chad's belongings. The receipt is for a mini hacksaw blades, cargo pants, and a few other things.
Well, here we go again. There's always a receipt for something. Or,
There really is.
Or surveillance video of them in Walmart or
Home
Depot.
Depot. I feel like we've covered so many things where they go to Home Depot. Don't you realize whenever you go into any store, you're being recorded?
Yeah. I don't understand.
I mean, I guess it's good though, because then they end up getting caught.
True.
But, yeah.
Keep doing your dumb stuff.
Police also discovered notes about soundproofing. Not stuff you normally think of. At least I don't think of that kind of stuff normally. Tina, you know what this reminded me of when I first heard about it on the show? It reminded me of that so-called planning document that investigators in Long Island found on Rex Heuermann's computer after he was arrested for murdering several women in Long Island. Remember that?
Yes, and do you know what's scary about that? He was a serial killer.
Heuermann.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chad had a planning document like the Long Island serial killer did. That's terrifying.
It was very similar.
We released 2 episodes about the Long Island serial killer in April of 2025. If you want to go back and listen to those. Then in June, we did a 3rd one, which I thought was really interesting.
Third one was my favorite one.
About the first interview with his wife. Also, there is a 4th part of the Gilgo Beach Killer House of Secrets documentary that was recently released in 2026. And it follows Heuermann's family and captures their reactions after he confesses to the murders of 8 women. It's fascinating.
We need to do an episode on that.
Yes. If you didn't know, the documentary is produced by the Curtis Jackson.
50 Cent.
Who we all know as 50 Cent.
Candy shop, boom.
I must say, he is an excellent producer.
I think he's fantastic.
It's easily one of the most memorable documentaries I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Okay, back to this.
So back to the scumbag we've been talking about in this episode, also known as Chad Skipper. We hear Danielle filed for divorce. You go, Danielle.
Good for her.
Chad, meanwhile, was locked up and had been charged with felony home invasion, aggravated kidnapping, unlawful restraint, and as you can imagine, the evidence against him, we hear, was overwhelming, so Chad ended up taking a plea deal. 42-year-old Chad Skipper was sentenced to 60 years in prison without the possibility of parole. So needless to say, for Chad, that was a life sentence.
We hear from Grace, Danielle and Chad's daughter. She says she was glad about his sentence because for her, it meant that if he was angry with his family or with his wife about the divorce, at least he wouldn't be able to act on those feelings and harm them.
So at this point, we think, the story's over, right? Nope, don't hold your breath because it's not over yet.
I forgot about this.
Chad starts writing Danielle letters from prison. And then randomly, she starts getting letters from someone she doesn't know, named Eloise May. Now, who is Eloise May, you may be wondering? Well, Eloise May didn't really exist outside of Chad Skipper's mind. He created her. And we hear Eloise May was the Southern lady who was very proper.
This is so creepy. So we see the letters from Eloisa May, the character, and they're shown on the screen. And first, I'll say it definitely looks like a man's handwriting to me, don't you think?
I do.
The letters are written in all caps. All the older Southern women I know write in cursive.
Yes.
Or a mix of print and cursive. But I don't know any woman that writes in all caps.
She's mad. You know how all caps is being angry?
She's yelling. Moving on. Chad uses weird, stereotypical Southern language in these letters as Eloisa May. Says things like sugar plum, it's good to be a talkin' with you. Hope your kids are finding time to be kids in this world we a living in.
What?
This world we a living in. He says things like a talking, a living. People might speak like that in conversation.
I mean, we don't,
but they don't write like that.
No.
No one puts a talking. It's great to be a talking to you in a letter. You just don't. No one does that.
Watch, we're going to get an email from somebody, Tina.
Oh, no.
It's going to be, I'm talking to you, Tina.
Don't creep me out like that. We learned that the idea behind the Eloisa May letters was that Eloisa was supposed to be this woman whose husband ended up in prison, and because Eloisa never forgave her husband and divorced him, he killed himself. The letters were telling Danielle not to end up like Eloisa and trying to convince Danielle to forgive Chad, or else that same thing might happen to Danielle and Chad. What a monster.
What a wackadoo this dude is.
A wackadoo for sure.
Did he have nothing else to do? Like in prison?
No, there's much to do.
I mean, the people at the Alcatraz heist that we covered, they were making,
Paper
fake
mache.
heads.
Fake heads.
And life rafts. I mean, they were crafty. Apparently, there's no arts and crafts where he's locked up at.
Nope, just his imagination.
Jeez.
Which is quite scary, by the way.
Very. Obviously, Chad Skipper created this Eloisa May character because he was trying to manipulate Danielle to take him back, as Tina had mentioned, and to forgive him. Thankfully, it did not work on Danielle. She says after all of this, she was focused on herself and her kids. And she did a lot of self-help reading. And she says that God gave her peace. And at that point, she knew she was going to be okay. She was going to survive this.
Danielle didn't think she'd ever find love again, or that she even wanted to find love again.
I don't blame her.
I don't either. Goodness gracious. But then we learn that a man named Billy, whom she knew as a teen, wound up back in her life after all of this mess. Danielle says their relationship flourished. Billy proposed, and now she's married to the first love of her life. We hear Danielle say she wants people to know, regardless of what they've been through, even if they never find love again, they can find joy in their lives again, just like she did. Finding joy was most important to her, and finding Billy, she says, was a bonus.
That made me smile, and it made my heart smile, because Danielle's kids say that their mom is genuinely happy now and laughs more. And it makes me so happy to hear that. What a strong and truthfully resilient woman. And her kids, they're resilient and strong too.
I can't imagine how tough that has to be to survive that. And to be able to trust people again.
And then to talk about it.
And to talk about it, yeah. Although I'm sure talking about it can be somewhat a bit healing. But still, what a story.
Yeah, I know, right?
I have to go to church this week.
You're going to be side-eyeing people all over the place.
Oh my gosh. They probably already think I'm a weirdo for doing that. They probably look at me and think, what is she looking at? Why is she looking at me like that? They're probably side-eyeing me thinking I'm the weirdo.
They're like that crime podcaster right there.
They don't know I do a crime podcast.
Oh, Tina, we need to up our listenership. Come on now. Advertise it. I've got our QR code plastered on the side of my car. Come on, Tina.
No, I can't be telling them. I can't be letting them listen that I side-eye them.
Well, we would love to hear what you thought of this week's episode. If you enjoyed it, please also share it with a friend and leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us get the word out about the podcast.
Yes, absolutely incredible story, Jen. Thank you for finding this for us.
Of course. Hopefully we get another entertaining one next week.
Oh, I know we will.
All right, everybody out there, we hope that you have a great week, and we will talk to you again soon. Bye. Bye.